Las Vegas, famous, fabulous playground of the West. A wide-open town that never goes to sleep.
Vegas! Vegas, baby, Vegas!
You're in or you're out. Right now.
My best mates are going to Las Vegas this weekend. I'm told it's incredible.
Vegas, here we go!
Pack your bags and get ready. You're going to Vegas with someone who knows Vegas inside and out. This is Vegas Never Sleeps with Steven Maggi, the podcast.
Well, you know, we have a lot of tribute artists on. They're very good. Vegas has some of the very best, and we're going to bring you the cream of the crop, really one of the really fantastic ones. He does Neil Diamond, and you'd swear, not only does he look like Neil Diamond, but he sounds like Neil Diamond. And with Neil not performing anymore for health reasons, you got to go. You got to see Rob Garrett. He'll be doing this for a lot of years, but any chance you have to see him, he's going to be performing 2 shows as Neil Diamond for Arizona Charlie's anniversary celebration, which is a big deal. Arizona Charlie's is a cool place, that, particularly if you live in Vegas, you know about it, and if you don't, make your plans. So let's talk about it. Rob Garrett, welcome. It's great to have you here. It's got to be kind of exciting to go to Arizona Charlie's, just simply because it's been around a while. It's really renowned around town, and I think people that come to visit should make the trip over there. It should be a lot of fun.
Hello, it's good to talk to you again, and thank you for having me on the show. And, you know, it's funny because this is their 34th anniversary, Steve. I was actually living in town when they opened, I believe it was 88, and I was living in that area. This will be my first time performing there, so not only am I performing there, it's going to be another first, is that because it is their anniversary, they've asked me to do something I've never done before, and that's performing two-hour shows in one evening.
Yeah, that's something. I almost think that kind of, you got to go in with a lot of rest and so forth. I mean, that's 4 hours of entertaining in one day. That's a big deal, right? I mean, it's something that, like you said, you haven't done, and most people won't do anymore.
Even in the days of old Vegas, when I lived here and I used to go see, pretty much every show that was in town, the most, I mean, obviously back then we had 2 shows. You had your 8 p.m. show and your 8 p.m. dinner show, and you had your midnight cocktail show. But even then, the average show, because of the rules of the casino, it wasn't any longer than 90 minutes. So now I'm doing two-hour shows, so it's going to be a test and a challenge for me.
Well, considering you do Neil Diamond, I got to think it's certainly worthy of 2 hours, because you talk about a fantastic book of music. Boy, he's got everything, and you do it all, right? From the earliest days and the early stuff of the 60s on through today. Well, not today, but...
Yeah, his last album came out, I want to say about 5 years ago. And, I mean, even in Neil's heyday, he would do long concerts. I mean, I think the longest concert he would ever do, again, when he was younger, would probably be upwards of 3 hours. And then, as he got a little, maybe into middle age, it was 2.5 hours. And then towards, his senior years, it would become even 2 hours. But he certainly didn't do 2 in the same evening.
Well, okay, so tell us, Rob. I mean, are you kind of like running a marathon for a singer? Because that is a long time to be up there, and people, and anybody that's seen you knows you always deliver on every song, and so people expect that. Do you find like that you got to kind of really prep for that and do whatever preparations necessary?
Well, with something like this, absolutely, because it's something I've never done before, and people ask me this, they asked first, obviously the first thing they asked, have you done that before? I said, no. They said, can you do that? And I go, we're going to find out. That's the honest answer. But as far as prepping, we rehearse that week, and I'll take care of myself. Meaning I'll make sure I don't speak a lot, and then of course on the day of the show, I will bring my thermos with tea and not talk between shows and pace myself. That's pretty much as I'll do, and we'll see how it goes.
Everywhere around the world, they're coming to America. Every time that flags unfurled, they're coming to America. Got a dream to take them there. They're coming to America. Got a dream they come to share. They're coming to America. Everybody, stand up for America. Come on, stand up for America. Stand up for America. Stand up for America today. Come on, sing it with me. Today.
Oh, they're going to love it. In fact, I heard from a few people, some of our listeners sent in a thing that you had done, I guess in January, down at the M Resort and Casino, which is another cool place, and you had big crowd, and you did 90 minutes with a big orchestra behind you. So that's kind of a good lead into this, huh?
Actually, I did about 100 minutes, and that's doing 90 to 100 minutes has always been the norm for me, always. Here's the way I look at it. Neil Diamond in his later years, even when I saw him at his last concert, which I did, he was doing 2 hours. And I thought, well, all right, if this guy at 78, 79 can do 2 hours, then I should be able to do an hour and 40 minutes. And that's what we did at the M, and it was in the midst of the Omicron resurgence. So I was a little nervous about what the turnout was going to be, because the pavilion holds 1,800 people, but there were upwards, there were between 17 and 1,800 people in that room. And you're right, I had 17 pieces backing me up. So that was a first as well.
Yeah, it's got to be fun, right? I mean, you can do a lot with your voice, but to have that behind you, it's got to excite you, I would imagine.
It totally excited me. I mean, they actually asked me, they actually requested of me to bring in an orchestra, so they kind of allowed me to perform a bucket list show, because it was always one of my dreams to do a show with, live strings. I had a female quartet, I had horn section, I had 2 percussionists, I had almost 2 of everything, except for the bass player. I had 2 backup singers, but that was one for the books. It was something I've never done before in Vegas, and playing to 1,800 people with 17 pieces backing me up. That's something I'll never forget, and I'm thankful to the M Resort for giving me that opportunity.
That's another great facility, and I think Arizona Charlie's is what a great way for them to celebrate their anniversary. I want to talk a little, in case you've been on the show a few times, but I want to let them know again, you grew up, in Brooklyn, in Queens, like Neil Diamond did. When did you decide, or what was the moment where, wow, I love this guy's music, and I can think that, because you kind of have dedicated your life to it, and I think it's incredible, because it reminds people kind of how powerful Neil Diamond is. And his music, I find, is kind of interesting. It doesn't fit a particular genre. It can be played from somebody who's worked in radio all their lives. A lot of different types of stations can play Neil Diamond music, which I think is a tribute to him.
That is absolutely true. And in a similar way where, even though Elvis is known as the king of rock and roll, Elvis sang everything. And so, and Neil wrote and sang all types of music. So I was always a fan since a little boy, since here in Sweet Carolina as a very little kid. And, of course, at that time I had no idea I was going to be doing what I'm doing. But, I moved to Vegas in '74 with my parents moved us from New York, as you said. I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens, and I just knew, even at a very, very, very young age, not that I wanted to be Neil Diamond, but I knew that I wanted to be a musician. I learned how to play guitar at 14, and now I was living in Vegas, and I was enraptured by the entertainment, not so much the gambling, but I was taken in by the entertainment and all the great entertainment we had there. And for starting in 1980, I formed my own band, my own cover band, and we did, we were fairly successful. It was called Rock and Roll Heaven, and we worked, we started out in dingy bars and went to nicer bars, and then to clubs, and then to lounges, and then even occasionally picked up a show. So we got to travel to London and all. So we did things most cover bands didn't do. But during those years, along the time I was performing, the 15 years in Rock and Roll Heaven, I did a lot of Neil Diamond stuff because he was one of my musical idols, if you will. So anytime my thing was that when I did a song, because we specialized in 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s music. And when I did a song by somebody, I would try, at least to the best of my ability, to try to make it sound like that person. And when it came to Neil Diamond, it caught a lot of attention. And for years and years and years, I heard, gosh, Rob, when you do Neil Diamond songs, you sound just like him. I don't understand why you're not trying out or auditioning for Legends in Concert. And I heard that for many years, including my friends that worked in Legends in Concert. They would come watch us. So I guess after 15 years, when I felt in Las Vegas, I had pretty much, accomplished everything you can with a cover band. I just made the decision, basically for monetary reasons, because I knew, the tribute acts got paid better than being a typical, band guy. So I auditioned for the one in Vegas, and at the time the producer would not give me the time of day, to get an audition. But I remember my friend, my buddy Jonathan Von Brana, who was one of the first Elvises in Legends in Concert in '83 when it first opened. He was now transferred over to the Legends in Concert in Hawaii, because they had shows, as all over the country, a few of them. So I sent him the video, and he said, I didn't even know you did Neil Diamond. And I said, well, neither did I, but I'm going to try it. And he took it to the boss, who happened to be Paul Revere of the Raiders. He was part owner of the show in Hawaii, only the show in Hawaii, and he was also the production manager and director. So at the time they weren't ready to hire. I thought I was getting brushed off. Long story short, Paul Revere called me about 9 months later and said, Rob, Paul Revere, he's calling me from Hawaii, says, and we love the video, and but we weren't ready to hire, back then, but we are now, and we've had the Neil Diamond Act on a show before, so I'm coming to Vegas to do a show at the Showboat. I don't know if you remember that place.
Oh, yeah.
But, yep, and he said, I'd like to audition you one-on-one, if you could set that up for me. And me and my band were playing at a club, an obscure club that's not even around anymore at that particular time. And I set up an afternoon rehearsal. And he auditioned me one-on-one. I sang like 4 songs to track. And, all I had, because it was the afternoon, were a few friends from Moral Support that showed up. And he watched me, and I could see him smiling, and I'm thinking, this is a good sign, he's smiling. And then he came up to me, and he said, I'm going to tell you something. And I'll never forget these words from Paul Revere. He said, what you just did is one of the hardest things any entertainer can do. And I actually knew what he meant. And he said, you just auditioned for me one-on-one with no band, no audience, and you did a great job. So he said, how do you feel about coming to Hawaii for a few months? And obviously that was not a tough question to respond to. And I ended up being there 3 years. So, and then of course, when I came back after 3 years, I worked a little bit for the Legends in Concert here in Vegas and all over the country. But that's what got me started. And I always was a Neil Diamond fan.
Well, you know what I'm impressed with, and I think people don't realize, there are people all over the country that will sing different songs. They do kind of like really their impressions, and that's fine. You know, it can be entertaining. But what you do, and really what some of these really great tribute artists do, is you dive into it. I mean, you got to make these people feel like they're seeing Neil Diamond, and you definitely do that. And I'm thinking there's a lot of pressure on, because there's all that different type of music that we talked about before that Neil Diamond sings. And you got to I would imagine you got to constantly study that. You want to give them that experience, and to be as successful as you have to sell that.
Absolutely, and I even want to add that, and I'm not saying every tribute artist does this. I don't even think most do it, but they probably should. But when I got that job, when Paul Revere gave me that job, you know, when I was going to Hawaii, I knew I wanted to make him, you know, proud of me. He became my boss, my mentor, my friend. So he was giving me a big break, you know, like, you know, as far as the opportunity of a lifetime, as far as I was concerned. So I, maybe a little unnaturally, you know, started watching every video. I mean, at that time, eBay was a new thing, but it was around, and I was buying pirate videos and bootleg videos, and I was listening to obscure recordings and pirate recordings. And even when I went to Legends and I got this job, you know, I would go to rehearsal while dressing that maybe an hour and a half before everybody else, because it had one of those combination those little TV VCR units. So you know, or DVD units, and I'd start while I was getting ready, just studying him, every mannerism, every little nuance, every vocal inflection. And again, I don't know that, I'm pretty sure every tribute artist doesn't do that. But listen, I did it no differently. The way I look at it is I did it no differently than someone like, let's say like Jamie Foxx taking on the role of Ray Charles. Okay, any accomplished actor that takes on that role, or the new guy that's going to be Elvis in June, Austin Butler, you know, or Rami, I forget his last name, the guy that did Prince. They don't do anything different than I would. They just become engulfed by their character, and they study them, you know, 24/7, and that's what I did. With Neil Diamond. Well,
you kind of like we did what Daniel Day-Lewis did with Lincoln, where you kind of become him, you know?
Exactly. The only difference was, and that's a good analogy, but the only difference was, from what I understand, Daniel Day-Lewis stayed in character even when he wasn't being, when he wasn't being Abraham Lincoln, which is something, obviously, I did not do. But I will say I probably went to the extent of researching my character and dissecting my character and studying my character in the same sense he did.
Well, what's interesting about that, too, is a lot of people might think, because, you know, I know Neil Diamond put out a couple of live albums or what have you over time.
A lot of them.
Well, yeah, and you study that, but you're like getting these little, all these different concerts and stuff, and I would imagine that's kind of a good way to really get a feel for him, because maybe he doesn't sing each song exactly the same way each time, and it's kind of cool for you to see it and go, okay, what are the similarities? Do I want to change that? Did you find any of that while you were doing this? As you got older, did it change, or how?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you have to know that I saw him 17 times in concert. So, and then, of course, and I saw him when he opened the Aladdin Theater for the Performing Arts. I went with my mom, and it was in July of '76, which was our bicentennial weekend. And that was the first time he ever played Vegas. So I went as a little kid and watched him, and at that time I had seen Elvis maybe 21 times. And to me, nobody could touch Elvis. Nobody. But I'm going to say this. It's the first time I see Neil Diamond at the Atlanta Theater for the Performing Arts. I watched him and I said, all right, this guy, as far as being a performer and a charismatic and just a fantastic high-energy performer, he came pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And so I watched him over the years and I started realizing that after probably the first 3 or 4 times of watching him, now, and by the way, same thing with Elvis. After the first 3 or 4 times watching them, I was now more observing and studying them. And with Neil Diamond, it was studying him to see what I could add to my show. I do lean, you mentioned that, I happen to personally prefer his live, in most cases, his live concert versions. So I watched what he said and how he set up songs, and yeah, I used them, I watched him and got ideas and formed my own ideas, and sometimes I would do something and maybe it was a variation of 2 different live versions. Because you're right, he never did anything exactly the same twice. So I was a musician too, so take that into consideration. So I watched him from a musical point of view and said, all right, I like what he does in this song, but I also like what he does in this song, so I'm going to kind of, put that together musically in the arrangement. But yeah, definitely over the years I have watched him and studied him and taken notes.
They want you, how they really need you. Suddenly you'll find you're out there walking in a storm. When they know they have you, then they really have you. Nothing you can do or say, you got to leave.
Well, what's interesting, back in the day, I was in my earliest days, right when I was in college, I worked at a radio station that did classic rock before it was classic. What was really going on. So I never saw Neil Diamond in those early days, but I remember going around to some of these concerts, and you're sitting there in the press thing, and all of a sudden, you see like Led Zeppelin and groups like that. And they would all say, like, in conversation that Neil Diamond was one of the best live acts. I was like, wow. I wanted to ask you, based on that and so forth, the success of Sweet Caroline and the fact that they played in, like, baseball stadiums, hockey stadiums, you name it. They play them in baseball, in all different sports. Do you think, in a way, it almost kind of hides the fact of really how good Neil Diamond is? Because if people just know him from that, that's a nice song. Everybody likes it. But he was way more diverse than that song. That was just one of many.
Yeah, it's true, and he's fortunate that. I mean, when he wrote Sweet Caroline, I'm sure he never had even a clue that it was going to become, the phenomenon that it has, where every age group, kids in their 20s, and everybody in the universe knows that song. So he didn't know that this song was going to become the most popular sing-along song in today's world. But Neil Diamond, you said it earlier, has written every type of song. And I remember growing up, it wasn't cool to like Neil Diamond. And I did listen to Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and Grand Funk Railroad or Grateful Dead, whatever. But what's happened in the last, 15, 20 years, that Neil Diamond has become cool. So now if you're talking to a Zeppelin fan, because, and I have, they'll get on their knees and bow to him, and look, he's one of the biggest selling artists in the history of music. That's a fact. He's outsold Zeppelin. He's outsold Dylan. He's outsold Springsteen. So there's that respect there, and he's written and recorded rock. We know that. He's written and recorded country. We know that. He's written and recorded gospel, pop, crooning stuff. He's done it all, and that's why today there's a renewed, not just today, I'm going on for the last 10, 15 years, there was a renewed interest in him. And as far as the music critics go, whether it's Rolling Stone or whoever, they can't give him enough accolades and enough praise. And now he's earned his right. He's earned his place in music, and he's rightfully, he's gotten his due, which took a long, long time. Even with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it took them way too long to put him in it. They put him in 2011, and they probably would be the first. They'd probably be the first to say it took us way too long to put this guy in here. This guy's a phenomenon, and I don't foresee any interest in his music dying down. At least not in mine in your lifetime, anyway. People love him. They just love him.
Let me ask you one last question then. It's not fair to ask you quite really what's your favorite song, but do you have a favorite song to perform? Is there one song, boy, if I could only perform one song, if I was in some place and they said one song, what would that be?
Okay, there's going to be two answers to that, because my favorite song, I do have a favorite song, by the way, at least out of the hits, because there are some of his obscure ones that I like as much or maybe even better. But as far as the well-known hits go, my favorite song is I Am I Said. And as a little kid, hearing that on the AM radio with, traveling around with mom and dad, the words to me were just, by the way, that's one of the geniuses of Neil Diamond, that he wrote stuff that the average Joe, he wrote something that everybody, at least one or two songs, we can all relate to. We all think he's talking about us, and that's his genius. But, okay, so All I Said is my favorite song to perform. But you asked if you went somewhere and they said, okay, you have to sing one Neil Diamond song, what's it going to be? Well, and that has a different answer. Because if I went somewhere and I had to sing one Neil Diamond song, it wouldn't be I Am I Said. Obviously, I'm going to sing the song that most people know. So it's going to be Sweet Caroline or America. Yeah. And as much as I love those two songs, they're not going to, well, America maybe, but they're not going to be in my top 5.
Yeah, one song I always thought was great was the Brothers Traveling Show, because he brought in a topic, there's the old tent revivals. He made it interesting to people that never thought of one, never knew about one, and I always thought that was really it. He painted a picture of something that you're not really familiar with.
He did, and I bet you didn't know that for the bulk of Neil Diamond's concerts over the years, that was his closing number. That was his traditional closing number, and it got a boost with a big boost with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the movie, because it's in the movie and they actually play it in its entirety, and it's a long song, and I never close my show with it. I always close with America, by the way, but it's usually the song that precedes America. And it gets everyone all riled up because he screams that sermon. When I say the sermon, he screams out that sermon, and brothers and sisters and this and that, and you're right. No one's ever sang a song like that, and he keeps it like a gospelish rock, in a gospelish rock kind of frame. Yeah. So it's a great song. Great song.
He has great songs, and nobody sings them better. Rob Garrett, you got to see him. He's at 2 shows on April the 30th. What are the times of those shows, Rob?
The times of the shows are a little different than the old days when it used to be. The old days used to be an 8 p.m. dinner show and a midnight cocktail show, and of course, those days are long gone. Yeah. So this will just give you an idea of the way things are these days. My shows were at 5 p.m. and 8 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you know, and let me tell you, somebody who's been around a while, the 5 o'clock, they both sound good, but the 5 o'clock show particularly sounds good because I'll be home.
That's funny. Really, you know, because we discussed it, you know, I mean, Arizona Charlie's, it's a little smaller of a place than I normally would play at because the room, the Naughty Ladies Saloon, holds, you know, quite not as much, less than 200 people. So hence the reason we're doing 2 shows. And I mean, remember, I just came from doing 1,800 people at the end. And they knew that. And I'm pretty sure that might have had something to do with them asking me to do their anniversary. So what I'm doing, by the way, is each show is formatted like this. They're 2-hour shows, but I'm doing an hour. And then there's an intermission, and I change costumes, maybe the intermission 15, 20 minutes, and then I come back and do my second hour. And then at 8 o'clock, I repeat the exact same thing.
Sing a song. Sing a song of songs. Sing it out. Sing it strong.
It's you talk about a smaller audience, but it's a real opportunity for people to see you in a smaller venue. You know, I think it's another reason to go out there because usually you play bigger rooms, so I think that's kind of exciting too for people.
I'm very very excited. Here's another thing, because it is their anniversary, they refuse to charge people for tickets, so it's free.
You're kidding? Oh boy!
No, it's free. It's kind of like their anniversary. Arizona Charlie's gift to their public. So seats are on a first come first served basis. They're not designated. So
well, we're excited about this. And by the way, you should follow Rob on www.neildiamondtributes. That's what you got to remember. neildiamondtribute.net. Not .com, .net. So we should follow you all the time because you play in Vegas quite a bit, and we want to see you. Rob, thank you so much. Best of luck there at Arizona Charlie's, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.